Ray, you may start. Unmute yourself and take over.
There, it worked. Okay. Let's call the meeting to order. It is today, November 7th, 1:21 p.m. in Arizona. I guess the official time is 3:21 Eastern Standard Time. And David, are you here? Yes, you are. Could you call the roll, please? And the respondents should say either yes or aye.
David, you have to unmute.
David, will you unmute yourself, please?
I think there it goes.
There he is.
David is trying to unmute himself. It keeps muting itself back. Okay. All right. For the board, Ray Baxter,
Aye.
Bob Bowser,
Aye.
Lee Lautner,
Aye.
and myself. Aye. For the advisors, Gabe Goldberg, Bill James,
He's trying to unmute. He's there.
Aye.
John Kennedy,
Aye.
Jerry Minnick,
I'm here.
Mike Smith. And Judy Toulour.
Okay.
That's it.
Next is I'm going to ask for a motion to dispense with the reading of last year's minutes.
I'll make the motion to dispense with the reading of last year's minutes. They are posted online. Lee Lochner.
Do I have a second?
Judy Toulour seconds.
Thank you, Judy. Now we get to do the president's report. And so these are some prepared remarks that I have. As most of you already know, in July, APCUG President David Williams died after a short battle with cancer. In addition to his many contributions to APCUG over the years, David was a longtime member of the Central Iowa Computer User Group, where he held various club positions during his tenure. His quick humor and willingness to help anyone will surely be missed. To honor David's memory, in August, APCUG made a scholarship memorial donation to the Des Moines Area Community College to be utilized by a student in their Computer Information Systems program. As we all know, the year 2020 is a year in our lifetimes like no other. Terms like social distancing weren't even in our vocabulary a year ago. The clubs in our user group family, for the most part, have been forced to forego in-person meetings, and this could have easily led to the dissolution of many. But APCUG was there to help. For some time, APCUG has held monthly Zoom video conferencing meetings among our own group with the directors and advisors, because we're all located in different parts of the country. So we were familiar with the potential of Zoom. We quickly realized that the use of Zoom by our member clubs to hold their meetings remotely could help ensure the survival in these difficult times. We began to offer user groups the free use of our Zoom accounts, and many have taken advantage of this benefit. This has led to some clubs opening outside their area. In fact, if you look at our website, there's a link for a list by state of the clubs that are welcoming other groups to attend these meetings. With user groups now having their meetings conducted online, this has led to an increase in the usage of the APCUG Speakers Bureau, another valuable benefit of APCUG membership. And thanks to the fantastic efforts of APCUG advisors Bill James and John Kennedy, along with advisor chair Judy Toulour, they've been conducting monthly workshops covering a variety of topics, including Windows 10, home automation, password managers, and Linux. So when you consider what APCUG provides its members, the $50 annual dues, which has not been increased in many years, is a bargain. Speaking of dues and wearing my treasurer's hat for a moment, starting next month, renewal dues can be submitted for 2021. Please help the membership team by getting your renewal dues in before the end of the year. Dues not paid by January 1 are considered delinquent and not eligible for the contest prize. Finally, I want to give a special thank you to all the APCUG directors and advisors who give tirelessly of their time and knowledge as volunteers. Yes, we're all volunteers to make this organization the special one that it is today. As we continue to go forward, we are always looking for new volunteers to help us reach our goals. So if you have an interest in joining our team, please let me know. Thank you. And now you're going to hear from the treasurer. Let me change my hat really quick. I'm going to share my screen. One more second here. Okay, move this out of the way for me. All right, so from the treasurer's point of view, our only source of income is the membership dues we collect each year. And the dues collected for the year 2020 amounted to $6,675. And that was a reduction of over $1,000 from the previous year, as the trend continues that with many of our member clubs having closed their doors and ceasing to exist for a variety of reasons. The primary expenses we incur in a given year relate to advisor travel, domain hosting for member clubs, and maintenance of the APCUG website and the UGLS system. With our advisors no longer making in-person visits to clubs, our payments for the Zoom services we provide have correspondingly increased. A typical year was 2017 and 2018, has APCUG pretty close to break even. But 2019 was not a typical year, as last November we had the APCUG Florida Conference. This was a last-ditch effort to see if we could garner the kind of attendance this type of computer conference had attracted in earlier decades. We were hoping for a minimum attendance of 100 paid attendees at $75 each. Instead, we only had 21 paid attendees for a conference that cost over $9,000, which included the associated costs as well as travel and hotel and other expenses. Needless to say, even without COVID-19, this was the last conference of this type that we will be hosting for the foreseeable future. Fortunately, the success of APCUG in previous decades has allowed us to maintain a positive bank balance, and we will continue to use these funds to provide the services we offer in our efforts to support our member clubs. Stop share. Okay. Now that the treasurer's report is done, Lee, will you please give us the membership and publication reports?
As of November 1st, 2020, we had 136 active user groups. During the year, some groups had combined into one, whereas others had disbanded due to the decline in age of the membership and members not stepping up to the plate to serve as officers, something all of you are very familiar with. However, we had several new groups that joined APCUG in 2020. The quarterly reports are published and posted on the APCUG website. The last report was sent out in October. So we are still doing okay.
Thank you, Lee. Judy, will you now please give the various committee reports? You have to unmute.
We have a benefits committee, and the benefits committee is responsible for, drum roll please, new benefits for you guys. We are interested if you have an idea on something that you think the other members groups would like, let us know. We just don't decide something. We think about whether it's going to really be utilized by the member groups. And of course, if we ever find any sponsors out there again, we would love to have discounts from them. And of course, Geeks on Tour gives every member a 20% discount on their 12-month subscription. And they have really, really interesting and good stuff. If you attended their presentation today, you might want to take advantage of that. And the code is APCUG. User group relations, Jean and Linda Barlow, they are still giving a 50% discount on all of their Acronis products. We had a presentation in August by Avron Grossman, and he let me know that if someone would like to write a review about his book, in order to do that, you will get a free ebook. Get in touch with me if you're interested. The PUSH committee sends out articles for those groups that still have newsletters. And boy, I love newsletters, so send me your newsletter if you don't already. And we get them from other user group newsletters. We have many editors who forward their original articles to me, and I really appreciate that. And I have, contacted many columnists and websites, and they have said, yes, your editors can use our articles. And the email that I send out has a short description of the article so the editors know what's there, as well as the word count. And that was requested by editors a gazillion years ago. Many groups upload the articles to their websites, or they just put a link to the zip file that I send out. Editors use 1 or 2 articles in their newsletters, and there are several newsletters that are all push articles because they don't have anybody who writes anything original. And these are the people that have said, yes, our editors can use their articles, or like Dave's Computer Tips or Windows Tips. So if your editor finds something on Leo Notenboom, he went so far as to make everything that he writes common source. You're here at the Virtual Technology Conference today, and the 5 of us are the people who work on getting the presentations. And if you would love to give a presentation at a Virtual Technology Conference, please get in touch with me. That would be appreciated. I'm always looking for new people. And as you know, you can sit there in your bathrobe and fuzzy slippers and watch the VTCs and no one will ever know. The videos are uploaded to the YouTube channel. You can use them for your meetings. It's always nice to know that in case a speaker doesn't show for one reason or another, that you always have a backup with the VTC video. PDFs of the presentations and any handouts, again, to the website. And in 2020, we had 22 unique presentations. We would normally have two more than that, but I decided just to have 4 and have the annual meeting a little bit earlier. Plus, we had 2 roundtable discussions. And I think it's way cool that we had 1,200 views of our VTC presentations for 2020. And here are the dates for the 2021. You will find the list on the website. And we put together a I call it the COVID-19 Zoom team. I imagine I'm the only one that has a COVID-19 folder under my APCUG main folder. And we've been working since the 2nd week of March, doing leadership and member training. I thought I would just for grins, ask if groups would like to share their meetings with other groups. And by golly, I got 36 people that said, hey, bring them on. I attended a Columbus Computer Society meeting one time, and there were attendees from 6 different states. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, you might want to go to the website, look up the document, and find out group that you're interested in, and each one has a different way they want you to contact them to get on their email list. We've had 122 meetings using the 2 free APCUG Pro accounts. That was from March to October. Not too shabby. That's general meetings, special interest groups, and board meetings. So our groups are making good use of the free Pro accounts. For our workshops that we put on, we've had over 1,000 registrants. Videos are uploaded to YouTube channels, and we've had over 1,250 views of our workshops. So not too shabby again. And these are the workshops that we've put on. I got in touch with Bill James and I said, hey, what do you think about doing a Windows workshop from an insider's point of view? He not only came up with 4 two-hour workshops, he also came up with 4 home automation workshops, which is his love. And with that, we had that going. I hounded John Kennedy forever, and he finally came up with a Linux one. That's the next slide. Kenneth Tubaugh gave a presentation at the August BTC, and he mentioned, you know, this is a shortened version of my presentation. Several people in the chat box said, oh, I'd really like to see the whole entire presentation. So I got in touch and he said, yes, I'll do one. And 1 turned into 2 and 2 turned into 3. So watch what you say, because I might take you up on something. So here's John's Linux presentation, and he has Orv Beach, himself, and Sharon, and they work together as a team, and he came up with 4 completely different workshops about Linux. So if you're interested in Linux, attend one. Very interesting. This is our website. It gets updated. Oh, look, there's the 2021 dates right there. I try to update it, not on a weekly basis, but every 2 weeks at least, put something fresh up one way or the other. And this is a snip of, so to speak, of our homepage. If you haven't gone to it, and I don't think many have, take a look, see what we've got there. There's some interesting things, might help your group. And thank you so much to Jerry Minnick. In addition to giving presentations to the groups in his state, region, Florida, Georgia, etc., he is also the tech tip and Apple Tech person. And as you can see, these are the numbers for the tech tips that he has uploaded to the website. Actually, he sends them to me and I upload them. And I do have to apologize for John Kennedy and myself. We've been so darn busy with all the COVID stuff we've been working on. We've been negligent in uploading the Linux tips and the Chromebook tips. If you have a group that you would like to, information you would like to share with other groups, there is a member group news area on the website, and send it to me. And or actually, you can send it to website at APCUG. And I'd be more than happy to put it up there. To be honest with you, I have never had any takers for this. I usually go out and find information in newsletters or on websites of what people are doing. And I'd appreciate it if you kind of think, gee, I'd like to share this information with other groups, etc. And if you want to find out about the directors or the advisors, the history of APCUG, download graphics, or just contact various and sundry committees, that's about APCUG's link. And we have a listing of our member benefits. We have 2 benefits that we've just added, and I'm calling them benefits. They're on the website, but I'm going to have a link to the workshops with all of the YouTube video links, PDF presentation links, just like we have for the VTCs, and Zoom meeting information. That was Gabe Goldberg's idea, and it's already on the website, but I'm going to take what's there and put it under the Zoom meeting information link. So again, take a look. You might find something interesting. And we have on the VTC link, if you click through there, you can go back to the beginning of time for the first one, Q1 2012 that we had. Ray talked about the Speakers Bureau. 2020, we've given almost 90 presentations to date. Business picked up when COVID came along, and groups are really making good use of the Speakers Bureau, and we're here to assist groups that can't find a presenter, just want a different voice giving a presentation, or maybe they'd like to have a presentation on a certain subject and they haven't got a clue who to ask. Well, we have 24 different topics and we have 14 presenters. Ray and Ron and Francis and Bill and John and Jerry, me, and our new one is Rob Truman, the webmaster from the Booters. Our industry people are Gene Barlow, the Geeks on Tour. If you like what you heard today at their presentation, ask them to give a presentation to your group. And our wonderful Bob G, who gives a presentation to anybody who would like one in October during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. He gave way over 20 presentations this October, and he's available during the year for updating on whatever you need to know about security. We have Joe Kissel. He's taking booking in 2021. I've had several requests for him, and he says he's just too busy publishing new books, but he'll be available in 2021. Leo Notenboom and our wonderful Huey Poplock Chromebook evangelist, and his presentations are really great. And Ray told you about this. Our membership renewal is coming up, and of course we're going to have prizes for 3 randomly chosen groups. I merely send an email or call John and say, just give me 3 random numbers, and I go into the spreadsheet, and that's how we choose the winners. It begins December 1st. Oh, that should be December 31st. It ends. And as of January 31st, if you have not paid, your group is put into the inactive status, and you will not receive anything from APCUG. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judy, for a very comprehensive report. And now we're going to move on to the Grants Committee, and I'm going to give that. So on our website, you'll find information about the APCUG Member Group Grant Program. The objective of this program is to aid user groups who need funds for a project that will help their members or user group community with the use or understanding of technology. So our website lists the criteria for selection, as well as information about how the approval process works. I'm happy to say that in 2020, we provided our first grant to a member club to partially help with a project that couldn't be funded locally as they were no longer collecting dues from their members. So this is a nice benefit we're providing, and I encourage clubs that if you have a need and you can't fill it yourself, contact us and let's see if we can help you. Thank you. I'm going to now turn the meeting over to Judy, our advisor chair. She's going to introduce our advisors. We'll each give a short report about the regions they represent.
Oh, okay. I'll give a short report on Region 1. Sam Wexler has resigned as that advisor, and we certainly thank him for his years of service to Region 1, his New York conference he put on, and everything else he did for APCUG. So about half of the groups in Region 1 are meeting either via Zoom, or they have 2 groups that are still meeting in person. They must live in pockets where there's nothing. I don't know. That's amazing to me. They meet from 1 general meeting a month to the Westchester PCUG that has a general meeting, and over 10 special interest groups that meet every month or even maybe twice a month. Their PC Renew, where they fix computers and everything, they can't meet in person, but they're still meeting just to keep everybody together and field ideas about where to get parts and all this good kind of stuff. And the Westchester group is one of the groups that is sharing its meetings. If you get in touch with them, you can attend any of their special interest groups or their general meeting. When the Central Kentucky Computer Society, John was training him and I was tagging along. They mentioned that they didn't know whether their digital editing group could meet. They didn't have any idea what they could do. So I put them in touch with the Westchester group SIG leader because I had attended their meeting and it went wonderfully. And so with that, Central Kentucky attended that and their digital photo SIG works wonders now. Region 10, California. And I'm envious of John. He has gotten such a good group of people that are working together for their meetings with Zoom and everything. And I have to say that in Region 10, half of the groups are still meeting and the majority of the groups of those groups are sharing their meetings with other groups. And I'm really sad about the groups that aren't meeting because I'm wondering if they will ever come back together again. They meet in locations where, you know, they may or not be welcome again, senior centers and places like that. And I wish I could light a fire under them to get them to, you know, start meeting via Zoom. It's so easy. And some people are still afraid of it because of the bad rep they got at the beginning of all of this. But other groups have had members that have moved away, and the Los Angeles Computer Society had a member who moved to Alaska, and he's enjoying attending their meetings now and seeing all the people that, you know, he knew for years, but he's far away. One member of my group moved to Chicago. He said, hey, this is way cool. I can attend via Zoom. And then he gave us a presentation on LastPass. You know how hard it is to get your members to get presentations. In international, three of the groups are using APCUG's free pro accounts, one since early summer and the other one from the last 2 months. And Bob G, I have to say he finally made it to Australia via Zoom to the Brisbane group. So that was really cool because he kept saying, try to get me to Australia, try to get me there. Well, I finally did. The Melbourne group, that is still a huge group and the largest group in APCUG, has about 40 special interest groups. 31 of them are meeting online. Not too shabby. That's only 9 plus change that aren't, and they use Google Meet or Zoom. So, Gabe, would you please talk to us about Region 2?
Sure. Hi, Judy and directors and advisors and Region 2 people and everybody. Nice to see such a big turnout for this annual meeting. Two of the groups in Region 2, Washington Apple Pie and PADAX, those are my two local groups. They've been meeting via Zoom very, very successfully. The Apple group has 4 meetings a month, 2 clubhouses, which are basically just virtual chats, afternoon learner SIG on Thursday afternoons with sort of a presentation and mostly just a chat, and then the main monthly meeting. And PADAX, Potomac Area Technology and Computer Society, has been meeting online for quite some time. So this was really pretty natural just to move entirely online. As Judy just mentioned, both of these groups have remote members. At this morning's Apple Pie Clubhouse, one of our members who's relocated to New Hampshire, but for some reason right now I think is somewhere in Pennsylvania, he signed on and he got a big warm welcome. One of our stalwart members, our webmaster, has moved to the Pacific Northwest, and aside from the time zone difference, he still joins our 10 a.m. Saturday meetings, meaning that he's getting up for a 7 o'clock meeting where he lives. And we have a couple of other remote members, people who started out local and have somehow misplaced themselves around the country, but they still show up for meetings, which is very gratifying. Both of the groups, PI and PADAX, have open meetings, so other members of other groups are welcome to join. I joined the Chesapeake user group meeting online a couple of weeks ago, as did Judy. They're just sort of dabbling in Zoom, but they seem to be pretty successful. And I think some other groups are somewhere along the progress line of getting used to meeting online. For groups that hadn't been doing it at all before the pandemic, it takes a little adjustment, but we're seeing some of the groups be very successful. Lots of groups are coming online. Both my two local groups, Apple Pie and PADAX, are very successfully using Groups.io for group discussion lists and much more, taking advantage of other features on Groups.io. PADAX had a discussion list on Yahoo, but probably by now everybody knows that Yahoo is shutting down its discussion list. So we pretty successfully moved the mailing list from Yahoo to Groups.io, and we had nowhere near the attrition that I was afraid of. I've moved lists before, and somehow the transition often shakes a lot of people off, but most people came along, and both groups, Apple Pie and PADAX, are exploring the other features on Groups.io. So if you've got a list that still lives on Yahoo, you've only got a little bit more than a month until December 15th when Yahoo pulls the plug. And if you haven't been using a discussion list before, this is a great time to explore Groups.io. For the needs of most user groups like ours, the level of service that's free is more than adequate. And it has quite a lot of really interesting, useful, valuable tools besides just being a discussion list. Judy mentioned one of the groups having a lot of SIGs. Apple Pie is just starting several new SIGs, among them an automation SIG, to look at all of the different triggers and shortcuts and automation features that various Apple devices have. And again, the SIGs are using the Groups.io features for file sharing, for taking polls and doing all sorts of other things. And one other point that's worth mentioning, there's a local Apple company employee, a local Apple representative, who is just immensely valuable to the Apple group. And so if groups have people using Apple devices, doesn't have to be a Mac, it can be iPad and iPhone. If you can find a local Apple rep to pay attention to your group and bring you resources, that is just of immense value, because he'll give presentations that interpret Apple announcements and give the good news and bad news, and he'll sometimes give technology presentations far beyond what you can actually see from the the formal Apple online presentations. And that's it. Region 2 is pretty active, and I'm happy to see all of the activities that are continuing during the pandemic going forward. So lots of activities. I'm almost as busy with the groups now as I would be if I was traveling. Over to you, Judy.
Thank you. Over to John.
Good afternoon. My name is John Kennedy, and I'm the regional advisor for both regions 3 and 6, and I keep them as my full family. They're not really two different regions. My regions cover part of the Ohio-Mississippi River Valley from Tennessee on up to Ohio and into Michigan, and then proceeds west through the Indiana and all around the Great Lakes and the Upper Plains. So it's a very large region and pretty active region. Although it's been a tough time for all groups meeting in person, the clubs in my two regions have weathered the storm. As the battle wore on, more and more technology-driven groups took advantage of going online and virtual meetings. Since we've been using it, as Ray said, online, it was just kind of a model was set, and most people were comfortable with it, and the groups followed. Also, groups had gotten used to start using our speakers bureau, so having virtual speakers wasn't anything different. With access to the groups, there's been abundance of meetings going on. One by one, I started providing training and hosting their first meetings. Then the groups took over the hosting duties and never looked back. Each month I had more and more groups going online, both in my regions and outside, as I helped other groups get going. I now have over 20 groups in my 2 regions that are meeting online in one form or another. Some groups started by using one of the free APCUG groups. Now, it's free to them. We're paying for it, so I want to make sure it's not a free one. But working with groups, I kind of convinced some of them that it was worth their money to have their own and not have to struggle with scheduling and everything with other groups. And so a good majority of my groups have their own Zoom, and they don't even rely on us anymore. The groups in Region 3 and 6 offer a variety of meeting designs. Some groups are the traditional meet once a month. And Judy didn't mention, but it's been crazy enough that we, in our APCG family, we have 3 groups that meet on the exact same day of the month at the exact same hour. So one group uses the APCG2 account so that we can have all of them meeting. Some groups have expanded to offer the SIGs, and they're doing that over the internet. One of my groups has started up their teaching program again. I'm still getting feedback from them on how that works, because as a teacher, it's kind of hard that you can't see as I do. You've got to just see. But anyway, they've gotten that going up. Groups have expanded to offering the SIGs over the internet. And I even have one group that is having game night each month. They found a way that they're playing bingo and a few other things like that. So they're keeping their social part plus their other activities. I have one group in the region that meets every week. And so without access to their senior center, they would have been in real trouble. So they have gone. I do have to report sad news that I just this week found out that I've lost one group because of that same thing. That's part of a meeting group that had no access and just not able to get on the Zoom bandwagon. So I'm sorry for that, because I know from the rest of my groups, everybody's having a great time with getting together. I even have one group that started a hybrid meeting once things opened up in Ohio a little bit, and the bulk of their membership is still meeting online, joins the Zoom as they have for most of these months, but a small group has now ventured out into the restaurant that was where they used to have their main meeting, and one member brings in a TV and one brings in a laptop. They hook it up and they join the Zoom while they're eating, and they even do the door prize calling from there. So they're trying to do that. I have one group that has tried to go back to meetings now. They have a big enough meeting room that they can social distance, but unfortunately the attendance has not gotten back up, because there are people who are still not ready to go out in that case. The biggest thing that I want to end with is that many of my groups probably will continue on into the future with the Zoom meetings, because they have discovered that I lost my building, not a problem. My finances are going down. I can't afford to rent rooms anymore. Zoom doesn't cost them any kind of money. So it's less expensive, no travel risks. We have people who are attending meetings now because they don't want to drive anymore, but with Zoom, you don't have to drive anywhere. So I think that the COVID has helped APCG realize that there is a different kind of future, and that groups don't have to be meeting somewhere to spread the word about technology. So to all those groups that have joined us online, great, and you're having a good time. Thanks, Judy.
And I do have to say, add a little bit there about the groups meeting online. When we have our 2-hour workshops, we have time for Q&A. Sometimes, and we go, for 2 hours, and we've already started our Q&A. Q&A ends up being a social time. We'll have 50 or 60 people still online with us, and it's all social. Every once in a while, somebody will ask a question, but they kind of the same people attend, And it's time for social. And one of the comments that I've received from several people is, this is really fun using Zoom. I can see what everybody looks like, what their expression is. When I go to a meeting, I only see the back of people's heads. So go figure. Over to Jerry for his region.
Thank you, Judy. My name is Jerry Minnick. I'm in Region 5, which includes Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina. Now, one of the things that we didn't do prior to this annual meeting is coordinate between the different advisors. And so 3/4 of what I wanted to say has already been said by Judy, has already been said again by Gabe, and already been said again the third time by John, and that's fine. So I'm going to cut mine a little short and get right to the bottom line. Yes, I still have 23 active groups in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina. And I want to highlight some of the things that are happening that anybody can get on. And of course, Judy said this was already available on the APCUG website. All right. Tech for Seniors. Tech for Seniors newsletter, you know, comes out. I've followed it very closely. Ron Brown is involved in that along with Huey Poplock, and they have a website called techforsenior.com, and they have an email, admin techforsenior.com. So they cover all sorts of different things: Windows 10, Apple, Chromebooks, cutting the cord, security, purchases that you want to make and considerations for that, modems, routers, and Starlink. Also, other guys are involved in and add to the Tech for Seniors, and we can see them today. One of them's Bob G, the other one's Ray Baxter, and of course, Dewey Clues. Additionally, the Central Florida Computer Society, it's been around for a long time. They also have meetings frequently, and they have SIGs and etc. I have prepared a piece of paper that I'm going to send to Judy, and she will send it out to everybody. And it has the bit.ly links for all of these things that I'm mentioning, so that if in fact you want to jump on a bandwagon with these different groups, you have a direct link. And of course, the Central Florida Computer Society has their own YouTube channel. So if you don't have a YouTube channel, you might want to check that out. And Huey Poplock, of course, has a YouTube channel. Are you still here, Huey?
I certainly am.
And Huey and Ron also do a great thing called Learning Chromebooks, which is cool. I'm thinking about getting a Chromebook, but I don't know. And last but not least, the Sarasota Technology User Group, STUG, also has opened their meetings to anybody who is belonging to a user group already. As mentioned before, thank you, Judy, Jerry's Tech Tips, Apple Tech Tips are on the APCUG website. And of course, the Chromebook Tech Tips are being handled by Judy on the APCUG website. And John does the platform, Penguin Platform Tech Tips. So go to the APCUG website and get on to those tech tips. They're very helpful. When I go and send a tech tip to Judy so that she can put it on the APCUG website, I'm looking for people, or no, I'm looking for things that people like me are interested in, okay? And that's where I base my whole modus operandi. The Speakers Bureau, I'm available all the time, or almost any time. And last but not least, I have a good relationship with the Best Buy store near me. and I'm with the Lake Sumter Computer Society. We meet at the college, or now we're meeting on Zoom, and Best Buy bends over backwards to help us out. And we also allow them to do a little advertising while they're giving us some technology. Back to you, Judy.
Jerry, are they going to give you a Zoom meeting?
Excuse me?
Is Best Buy going to give you a presentation via Zoom? I've heard from several groups that they asked and they weren't interested.
Yes, they are. We're starting that
Outstanding.
up. We're starting it up in December. And I think the reason I'm getting at is because the manager for the Best Buy closest to me is also a personal friend.
Yeah. So if you guys have a Best Buy in your area and they say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't do that. Feel free to say, you know, the Lake Sumter group in Florida, the Best Buy store there will be giving a Zoom presentation. Just for grins, see what they say. And I'm going to add a little bit to Jerry's here. I don't know of another group that is doing this, but the Sun City Center Computer Club, their meetings are Zoom to YouTube. And very good. I'd love to know if anybody else is doing that directly. And now we're going to go to Bill James. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. I'm very proud to be the regional advisor for Region 8. And my territory covers 11 groups spread over Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Texas. And for the most part, our groups are meeting online. The Cajun Clickers, for instance, are continuing their programs using Zoom for Windows 10, their extra help for Microsoft Office, their Internet SIG, and additionally to their monthly meetings. The North Texas group is using a variety of teleconferencing software in addition to Zoom, such as Microsoft Teams, GoToMeetings to conduct their meetings. So it's not really important what software you're using to communicate with your members. It's just that you're doing that. We also have Bits and Bytes and the Senior Computer Users Group of the Greater Kansas City, and they're utilizing Zoom as well as another software to conduct their classes. The Computer Club of Hot Springs is going to be having their first meeting using Zoom very shortly, and I'm hoping to attend that. That's been one of the things that's really been great about Zoom, particularly for advisors, since we can't necessarily travel to some of our groups because of the distance. We can always get there by Zoom. So that's a lot of benefit. And I think, as Judy said earlier, that I know in the case of my particular club that we're getting to know each other, where in the past when we were meeting in person, we had these little cliques going where people would be grouping and talking. And so there were lots of members that you never really got a chance to interact with, but that's no longer the case. And speaking of my group, which is the Computer Club of Oklahoma City, I'd like to just say we had a special, this was a special, well, October was a special month for us, is that one of our members celebrated her 100th birthday. And I would dare to say she is probably the oldest active member in APCUG. She, before COVID, she was attending the meetings in person, driving her Prius to the meetings. And now that, of course, we have stay in quarantine for the most part, she is no longer being able to do that. But she is still active in a variety of things. So we're very blessed to have her in our presence. And the other news is that we did a bingo night for one of our, a bingo day, I'm sorry. it was actually in the morning that we had on the fifth Thursday. Our club meets weekly, and so Thursday we normally October had five Thursdays in it, so we didn't have a program for that particular Thursday, and it was close to Halloween, so we had bingo, and it was a lot of fun. So much so that we'll be doing another one in December. So I think that's a wonderful opportunity for your members to socialize and not necessarily be bombarded with a lot of technology, although they have to have some technology as far as using Zoom and utilizing the chat room, some mouse exercises to put the X's on the boxes. So there is some benefit from having these online games. But all in all, I think our my region as a whole is remaining intact. I fortunately have not lost any groups yet, and I think it's by large members stepping up to the plate and using the online telecommunication opportunities to be able to remain active. So that's the main thing is you want your clubs members to stay engaged, and I think our people have done that. That's all I have. Judy?
Thank you. I don't know whether Mike Smith is here. If you are, please unmute yourself. No? Okay. Mike is our newest advisor, and he has really done a good job about reaching out to all of his groups, introducing himself, working with them to find out what they need, you know, how he can help them and everything. And he's kind of jumped in that role, totally immersed himself in it. And he's, you know, working with a couple of groups to get them on board on a few different items. And it was nice having some new person that was gung-ho about it, because we've all been advisors for 16,000 years. And yeah, I see that, you know, Evans is laughing there because he's probably been something for 16,000 years too. And I forgot to mention Region 10. The groups in Region 10 are all meeting via Zoom. The KEGS group, the Computer with a K enthusiasts of Greater Seattle, didn't want to share their meetings. And when Bob G was setting up his October calendar, they got in touch and said, you know, we'd share our meeting with the Victoria group. And I thought, well, okay, that'll give them a taste of it. I traded meeting days with the KEGS group so they could have the Monday night meeting. I went back to my old Wednesday night, and they sent me a note and said, hey, we had a really good time with those Victoria people. We want to keep sharing our meetings. So if you are hesitant and you're using Zoom, it's fun to share your meetings with other people. And I do want to talk about Huey. Huey, in fact, it's this Sunday, tomorrow. He has his Windows SIG that he's been doing again for a gazillion years. And if you go to huey.net, you can find the link to click on, and he will be more than happy to invite you to his Windows SIG meeting. And with that, we are finished with the advisor reports.
Thank you very much, Judy. And I apologize. I went out of order. We actually developed a script for today, and yours truly screwed up. So let's go back to it. And I'm going to ask David now to give us a report on the bylaws.
Ray, I didn't mind you skipping me anyway. Bylaws committee, there's 4 members, myself, Ray, Judy Tallur, and Bob Bowser, have been taking a look at the bylaws as written. And remember that these bylaws were written many, many, many moons ago. And technology has drastically changed. The way we do business has drastically changed. So we decided that it's time to revisit the bylaws and kind of update them. it's an ongoing thing. I don't know if it's going to be a single bylaws change, or if it's going to be a series of bylaw changes over the years. But we are going to try and bring everything in APCUG up to date. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Francis, I see you're here today. Can you give us a report on the online services hosted websites?
Okay, I hope my mute button's working, or unmute.
Hear you loud and clear.
Good. I had trouble with it all day today. One of your group's benefits of membership in APCUG is a hosted website, which is included in your $50 annual dues. We have 15 groups currently taking advantage of this benefit. So we offer up to 3 different formats for this hosted website. Some groups actually take advantage of all 3 formats. That was a complexity that David added to this operation. We have 15 groups currently taking advantage of this benefit. If you have more information, if you would like more information, contact either me at fchao@apcug.org or Judy Talor, and we'll be glad to describe these 3 sub-benefits to you. And there's a long list. You can also get it off our website of the 15 groups that are taking advantage of this feature.
Definitely a good benefit when you think how much sometimes we have to pay for our own direct hosting services. This way you can have APCUG provided for you. Thank you, Francis. I'm now going to turn the meeting over to John Kennedy regarding the 2021 advisor election. There you go.
Yep. APCUG elects both directors and advisors on a staggering scale. The directors are voted for 3 years and the advisors for 2. So different years we have different numbers of people running. This year was a smaller year. We had 2 directors up for renewal, Ray Baxter and Lee Lochner. And we had 2 advisors up for re-election, Bill James and Mike Smith. Ballots were sent out to the member groups presidents and APCUG reps for them to vote on these. Those votes did come back from them, and I'm happy to say that all people up for election were renewed for their 3 or 2 year respective positions. We are down 1 advisor, and Judy is going to try to take care of that because it's too late in terms of elections right now for replacing our former Region 1. So I submit that all officers have been reelected.
All right.
And I guess if we don't need a motion because all the clubs moved and voted.
Yes, they did. Okay, thank you, John. And now I'm going to ask Bill James to give us the results of the different contests. We have a digital photo, the e-bulletin, newsletter, and website.
Bill, will you please unmute?
No, Bill's trying to unmute, but it hasn't worked yet.
Unmute yourself, Bill.
He's trying. If he can't unmute, I can give the report.
No,
There he is.
He did it good. Thank you.
no, I had to. I had my. Let me get my screen. That's trying to share my screen too. Okay, I thought I had all this organized. But anyway, the 2020 APCUG contest for um, digital photos, web, newsletter, etc., was a great success. We had lots of participation, and I'm sure the quality of the entries really gave our judges a lot of pause. But it's my pleasure to announce the 2020 winners for the contest. We'll be showing the first, second, and third place winners. And I'd like to thank Judy Toulour for assisting in this effort. She's always a great help and a great resource. So in the digital photos, we had 4 categories. There's altered images. Third place winner of that category was the Rail Station Walk with Granddaughter by Art Grisham, and it was under the Computer Hood Users Group. Second place winner was Tulips, Bill Butler from the Computer Enthusiast of Greater Seattle. The first place winner was Crazy During Lockdown by Edward Hickman. By the way, every one of those individuals in his living room is Ed Hickman, and he's from the Leisure World Computer Technology Club. The next category was Indoor Spaces. Our third place winner is Eggs by John Nash from the OLLI Personal Computer Users Group. The second place winner was Wistful, Sherry Lee Lucia from the GVR Computer Club. And the first place winner was Apple Season, Mark Thumb from the Sunland Village East Computer Club. The next category was Outdoor Spaces. The third place winner was Sun Brushed by Jim Corbin from the Computer Enthusiasts of Greater Seattle. Second place winner was Sunset at Lake Cumberland and Campbell, Central Kentucky Computer Society. Our first place winner was Along the West Fork Trail, Bob Bleckinger from the GVR Computer Club. Our fourth category was Your Town Locked Down. The third place winner was Locust Creek Park, Steve Powell, Computer Enthusiast of Greater Seattle. Second place winner, Ronald Reagan National Airport at 12:30 p.m. March 31st. Gary Skilcorn, Charlotte Counter Computer Group. Our first place winner was Empty Victoria by George Bowden, Victoria Computer Club. The e-bulletins. Our second place winner was the WAUC Bulletin editor Bob Kosbeg, Wisconsin All Computer Users Club. First place winner was Larry Mitchum, editor of the Next Week at Your Computer Society, the Central Kentucky Computer Society. We only had 2 entries in that category, so what am I doing? Sorry.
Page down, page down, page down. God.
Sorry about that. The newsletter category was third place winner was Green Bytes, Dorothy Finch, editor, the GVR Computer Club. The second place winner was WAUC Talk with Julia Rice, editor, the Wisconsin All Computer Users Club. First place winner, Drive Light, Arch Grisham, editor, under the Computer Hood Users Group. The website contest, the third place winner was the Sun City Center Computer Club with Bob Del Media, webmaster. The second place was Space Coast PC Users Group, Kirk Postic, webmaster. The first place winner was Computer Booters of Sun Lake, Rob Truman, webmaster. Ray, would you?
Okay, thank you, Bill. And then Judy, you were going to let us know about the 2020 Volunteer of the Year?
Yes, I will. Excited to do this. Bill, would you share your screen again, please? And our 2020 Volunteer of the Year is, page down, please, Leah Clark, President Editor of the Los Angeles Computer Society. Congratulations, Leah. I have to let you know that over time, their newsletter as well as their website have been first place winners in their respective contests. So again, congratulations to Leah. Well deserved.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now that concludes the part of the meeting for the presentations by your APCUG advisors and directors. And now we're going to move on to the open part of the meeting for general discussion. So if you'd like to, I was going to say, if you'd like to speak, please unmute yourself, give your name and the name of your user group. So the first one I'm going to call on is Judy. Judy, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Could we adjourn the formal meeting, please?
Thank you for reminding me. The formal meeting, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Judy.
Seconded, Strom.
Thank you. And the meeting is officially ended.
Okay,
Now-
I have a comment. Bernie from Sterling Heights and Semco let me know that if you have a micro center store near you, they have given a Zoom presentation to one of his groups. So again, they are in Michigan. So if you contact your micro center store and they say, can't do that, let them know that there's precedent set. So that's Best Buy possible for you and Micro Center possible.
Okay.
This
very
is a
good.
What
time
is
for
Micro
you guys
Center?
to ask questions and all that good kind of stuff. So please unmute yourself. You can do it by pressing and holding your space bar down, and let's have at it.
What
And when you
is
do that,
Micro
again, name
Center?
and club. Go ahead.
Murray Strom, what is Micro Store or Micro whatever she said?
Micro Center, if you had one in your area, you'd know about it. It's like Best Buy and the old CompUSA
Oh, okay, well I'm in
or
Canada.
Fry's.
I'm in Canada, so probably not here.
Right, sorry.
Ray, I have a point of order.
Yes, go ahead, David.
Who seconded the motion to adjourn?
Murray Strom.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't crossed over from the other one. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm from the Victoria Computer Club.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Come on, you guys, this usually leads us to lively discussion. How can we help? Huey?
I have a question. I noticed when you sent out the links for the meetings today, you included bit.ly shortened links. I had a problem sending some bit.ly links in emails, and I can't remember whether it was Yahoo Mail or whether it was maybe Verizon Mail. It was somebody, but it was one of the big players. If it had bit.ly in there, it bounced. Did you have any problems with that?
No, Gmail doesn't care about stuff like that. but I've had to change it in news. Paul Howard, who is the president of Pat Asis, one of Gabe's groups, he let me know that if I included the bit.ly links, he was not able to forward news to his members. So that's why if you get news, there's these long links now.
Yeah, is there anyone, it wouldn't even go through, even if I included the long link and the bit.ly, it would bounce them. And I'm just wondering, is anyone having a problem with tiny URL? And maybe I should switch to that.
This is Sharon here. I've had problems with bit.ly when trying to post something similar to LinkedIn. LinkedIn detects it and rewrites it because they don't like stuff being forwarded or people forwarding to some other. So they created their own short URL and it detects bit.ly and rewrites it to whatever was your target so that it appears it's originating from LinkedIn. And I think many other places are doing it in a very subtle manner. They usually inform you in the fine print on page 38 of some about us, you know, something like that. But that's not unusual because they like to count, we were referred from this website, so they can charge the target website more dollars or claim influence, stuff like that.
Well, it's also a security issue because bit.ly could be anything and you wouldn't know it. So someone could send you to a nefarious website.
Well, yes, but they don't check the target. They rewrite the URL for themselves. And I recall this was raised some time ago, maybe a couple of years ago. And they have in the fine print that they're not liable if something else is redirect them somewhere else. So that's why they rewrite it also.
Huey, I use tiny URL in my MailChimp publication, and I have not had any problems with it.
Okay, I may switch because some of the registrations, for instance, for Zoom meetings can be very lengthy URLs, and it's just, in fact, mine for tomorrow has a minus sign at the end of it, and a lot of times people just kind of cut it off or something. So I made some bit.lys out of it and sent it out, and as I said, a bunch of them bounced, and I kept sending them, and so when I eliminated the bit.ly, it went right through without a problem.
And I can remember back in the day when tiny URL had a problem and we were all told, don't use that, you know, because you couldn't tell what was underlying.
Yeah.
So maybe it's bit.ly's turn to have that problem. And Ray has his hand up.
Which Ray?
I see a hand up from Sandy.
Let me change my view here. Go ahead and just speak if you have a comment to make.
Okay, a comment I have to make, Ray. Jerry Minnick, okay. When I put a bit.ly on my tech tips, I check it out. When I send this sheet of information to Judy Talor to send out to everybody about those sites in Florida that you can join, I've checked out all the bit.lys. I understand what Huey's saying, but I haven't had a problem yet.
Good to know.
Okay, George Bowden, go ahead.
Hi. We have a problem in getting local participation in our Zoom meetings. I'm in Victoria, BC, and we are contemplating joining more fully into the circulation of videos with APCUG. I'm wondering if other groups are finding the same problem. I'm really surprised. We do a session on security or something like that. We get 2 or 3 members turn up, right? Now, I won't say that we get a lot of our members joining the APCUG presentations either, we're quite healthy financially, and we have 150 members, but the participation level is really low. And we get it, you know, when we do a physical activity like going out and taking photographs, we do that as a group and with this, you know, good distancing. We get reasonable participation in that, not 30 people, but a dozen people might come out. But the Zoom stuff seems to be really an impediment for many of our members. I'd like to hear comments from other people on that.
Okay, George, I'll answer and tell you that I faced the same thing with my club in Arizona. About half of them didn't even want to try to participate. And I came to the conclusion after a while that they were afraid of failure, that they were going to do something wrong and all their friends and others at the meeting would see it. So what I ended up doing was one-on-one with these people. I spent an hour, sometimes longer, first calling them on the phone, talking to them on the phone, and having them do the steps to get into Zoom. Once we were connected, we hung up the phone and continued to converse via Zoom. And that gave them the confidence to know that they could handle it.
Thanks.
George, I have a question for you. Has anyone actually said why they were reluctant to use Zoom? Was it because they thought
some people
security
just
issue?
don't. Some people just do not want to be in front of the computer all the time.
Let them know that they can, they don't have to show themselves, so to speak, that they can attend without, you know, their video live.
That's a good point.
Of course, you have to, you know, someone has to go in and train them where the controls are. But APCUG has sent out numerous documents that has those instructions included.
Dorothy here from Victoria. George and I did do 3 sessions for our members, and I think a total of 26 people. We did social distanced in an auditorium to show them how to do Zoom. And of those people that attended, we did 2 for Windows and 1 for Apple. Not one of them have ever shown up on Zoom meetings. And like George said, we have 150 members, but you know, us as instructors put a lot of time into our presentations. And when you get 1 or 2 or 3, and then you have like 3 instructors that are online, it's kind of, we're not sure what the issue is.
Hi, this is Gabe. I have one suggestion for perhaps increasing turnout. I do all of my Zooms using my iPad. And if I wanted to, I could do it using my iPhone. And listening to people complain about the complexity and problems and unreliability of doing it on a computer makes me glad that I'm doing it on an Apple mobile device. And so for people who have such devices, iPad or iPhone, you might tell them that the interface, the app on these devices is just simpler to use, much less error prone, much less problem prone, and they might be more comfortable with it. They might be more relaxed and more successful with it.
Yeah, well, we did cover all like Android, Apple, tablets, Chromebooks, computers without webcams, and yeah, we're at a loss. But I enjoy all the APCUG ones. I attend lots, as some of you know, and I'm learning lots. I enjoy what you guys do. It's great.
You know, I'm really surprised by that because my membership is rather, I mean, we have folks over 65 for the most part, and they have seemed to be able to pick it up rather easily. And I personally have found no difference between using the PC version or the tablet version. I mean, the controls are similar, so it's really difficult to put a handle on that.
Well, I'm going to step on John. I'm going to step on John Kennedy's toes for a minute because this is exactly how I handled it. All right, I was used to using Zoom because I've been doing meetings with APCUG for a long time. Okay, but I didn't know anything about the controls and how to use them. And when I had people ask me questions, I referred them to John Kennedy. and he knows what he's talking about. And I thought that was cool.
One of the things I suggest to people when they're having similar issues that you're talking about is don't have this the meetings at the same time all the time. Try if you're normally having evening meetings, have something in the morning or in the afternoon and make it just social. Just together like we're talking now. Just have, hey, let's get together and talk. If you have some questions, fine. If not, we'll just talk and get to see each other again and see if you can get them socially on without having a formal computer or technology type of meeting.
Yeah, we tried that last week and it was just a drop in and chat and socialize and anybody ask us questions. There were 3 instructors and we only had like 3 people. So, yeah.
But the one-on-one suggestion I think is very good as well. Get people used to it. And just
as a 20+ year adult ed tech teacher, for adults, it's fear of the unknown, fearing that people will think they're stupid. And you can't get them to ask questions. And I would always say, there are no stupid questions. There are only clarifying questions. And that I guarantee you that if you have guts enough to ask that question, I'm going to see people going like this. And they're so grateful that you did ask that question. So like I said, for many adults, it's fear of the unknown and perceived as being stupid. So again, the one-on-one is great.
And I would also say the only other dumb question is the one that you didn't ask.
Yep.
Our general meetings are very well attended. We had close to 30 people for our general monthly meeting. And our regular sessions, the usual 8 people or so attending, but for the general meeting, and they're all very, very senior people, but they attend that and there's usually a good program.
I was going to comment earlier, the discussion was on the Zoom. And in the early days, when we switched to video conferencing, a couple of members expressed extreme concern or downright opposition to Zoom because they heard through third-party channels or possibly, the wrong website they went to, that Zoom was tracking their usage and it was owned by China and it was a security risk. And surprisingly, even to this day, that has persisted. So our experience has been different. They insist we're not going to ever use Zoom, and that sort of planted a reluctance on other members' minds. So that's why we've had to use different tools. But we're going to try Zoom, at our next meeting. And I hope to convince them that it is not the security risk that you were led to believe.
Yeah, Zoom is not owned by China. The guy that owns it is a Chinese American, but it's an American company.
Right. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Let me add one thing. But he's not the sole owner. Some small single-digit percentage shares are owned by a Chinese venture capital firm. So I researched it and I looked into that. It's not owned by China, but there's a Chinese venture capital that has, 9% shares. But then there are plenty of other, investors in that. And what led to this fear about Zoom was in the beginning, parts of the US government, some people started using Zoom. And then they discovered that the encryption keys were being hosted in a cloud provider in China. That is a fact. And the company explained that was only for like a week while they were scrambling to get more cloud resources in the US so they could do all of that. But that one little fact got blown out of proportion. By the way, Oracle, Oracle Cloud Services and Amazon Web Services now host all the Zoom stuff in the US.
Also, I would just mention that I'm also a member of the Linux group in Victoria, and we have been using Jitsi Meet for our meetings, and it works fairly well. I found that it was not very good for our genealogy meetings because I found that again, most of the members were quite senior, and they had a lot more trouble with Jitsi than with Zoom.
Yes, we've been using Jitsi in place of Zoom for the last several months. Tomorrow we'll be trying Zoom. I will tell you that Jitsi doesn't work well on tablets and smartphones. So that is an issue which we hope to solve with Zoom and settle this forever. There's nothing wrong with Jitsi, but many of these web conferences tools, they all have different user interfaces. So everyone's experience is different. You can't say one is better than the other. It depends what you're comfortable with.
Jitsi also doesn't work if your presenter has a presentation that contains videos, because in Jitsi you cannot play videos.
Unless you do, you can share a YouTube video.
Correct, but if your presentation
you cannot do it from your own
includes,
presentation.
that's correct.
Right. If you have a video that you've stored on your computer,
mine is embedded in the presentation. It does not work.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So, yep, correct.
Yeah, but you can go to the.
I had contacted Jitsi because I had a club that was interested in doing it via Jitsi, and Jitsi came back and said, sorry, we don't offer that. I said, when is it going to be available? We don't think it's something we're ever going to have available. So that was the response from Jitsi.
Well, it's also got to know that the Jitsi has a parent company that has a paid program that's 8x8, and more likely it works that way.
Okay, I'm Lloyd Lindsay from Toronto Personal Computer Club of Toronto. I wanted to make a couple of comments. I've been trying to get through, and I just wanted to let everybody speak for a while. First of all, as far as the usage, that people have the fear of Zoom, one of the best things you can do is the people that are familiar in your club with Zoom should work on a one-to-one basis with other people. Say, listen, instead of having a telephone conversation today, let's just have a Zoom meeting and the two of us can talk. And all of a sudden you start showing, you can share your files, you can show pictures, you can show everything. They'll say, oh, how come I wasn't using this before? And also it's already been advertised so much, everybody knows about Zoom. The problem that some people have is that, so everybody's using it, somebody wants to just be different and try something else. But Bob said about showing videos is one of the reasons why in my club, we were looking at Skype, and Skype just didn't have what Zoom had with the ease of use of showing videos. And I actually show online videos quite a bit. Like, for example, and one of the things I've considered, and we will start doing a little bit more of it probably, are showing the VTC presentations to our club on a club basis, and with the fact that people can interject as we go along and make comments as we go along. So that's that part of it. I think that it can be overcome. I know that some people have had some problems, but we've had other computer clubs through Judy, by the way, who have hooked into our meetings and vice versa. We go into their meetings. And it was very interesting because I belong to two clubs, and the second club is the Durham PC Users Group, which is east of Toronto. It's another city just east of Toronto in that area, which is Oshawa, Ontario. And they also have been using this, but what they were doing is that they have a number of SIG groups, which is special interest groups. And each group now is using the meeting format, although they prefer meeting in person, which leads to the next thing I was going to want to comment on. Today's presentations were confusing for me. When I came in, I expected to have my full Zoom, let's say menus and icons and everything there. And I thought something was wrong. I clicked into the first presentation, and at the other one that was running at the same time, I said, I have a problem with Zoom. there's something wrong because I'm not having all the icons I'm used to seeing. And evidently you cut it off so that you wouldn't be able to see the other participants that were watching. And that to me, it goes back to what Judy was saying. People like to see who else is there. And I honestly think you did yourself a disservice. You call the meetings that we had today VTC, Virtual Technology Conference. Well, when you're at a conference, you get to meet people. You get to talk to them. And maybe if you got the 15 minutes afterwards or the 20 minutes afterwards, the break, people can get into discussions with each other, which is exactly what you're doing now, which is fantastic. But I'll give you an actual real life story of what happened, and it happened to me earlier this week. I'm a CPA. I am required to have a certain amount of verifiable professional development hours where we take courses related to our profession. And one of the things that happened, I thought it was hilarious, I just broke out laughing, is that some people, they didn't want, they had the full capacity on their screen, but they turned off the video. And the instructor said, you know, a lot of you have turned off the video, but when I teach in front of a group of people, I like to see my audience. So everybody started clicking their video back on. And I think that's very, very, let's say, very, very interesting. If you want to keep a club going, if you want people to see each other, don't you actually mix and mingle at your club meetings if you're going in present? You know, when you're doing it in presence of others? Of course you do. And I think that it adds I think that's a very powerful feature of Zoom, and that you should leave it on. Now, the other thing too is that this bitly that you had, that confused me because again, I thought something was wrong with my Zoom. So I clicked on the bitly to see if that was the problem. And it was very confusing for me because I was flipping from one to the other to see what was wrong with my Zoom. And there was nothing wrong with my Zoom. You people cut me off. To put it generally, you cut off some of the features that we could have had. So that's my 2 cents. And I know it's a lot, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Judy,
Yeah,
why don't you respond
It's
to
my
that?
turn to talk.
Yep, I'll shut up everybody else off.
Thank you. APCUG has been using Zoom since the beginning of time, like 2014. Number one, we've never had a problem. We chose to have webinars and not meetings. It's two apples and oranges. And if people, regarding Zoom bombing, if people had only used the security options that were already in Zoom, there would have been no Zoom bombing. The problem was that, oh my gosh, what are we going to use? We're going to use Zoom. And we have all of these kids that were out there that were very technology aware. And they got in and Zoom bombed a bunch of stuff and it went from there. But it was the group's fault. It was the users' faults because they did not look at it carefully and realized if they had done waiting room and passcode, there would have been no Zoom bombing. If they had not put the URLs against what Zoom said, don't put them out on the internet. They put it on their webpage. So, you know, it was really unfortunate that it got a bad rep. I have attended meetings with I haven't attended a Jitsi meeting, but all the other platforms that are popular out there, and Zoom is intuitive. I happen to be that kind of learner. And the other ones that I have attended, they all have left a lot to be desired. It just hasn't been as straightforward as Zoom and easy to teach people how to use it. They actually only need to learn how to do 1, 2, 3, 5 things. They don't need to learn anything other than 5 things to start, and they can use it with no problem at all. And I'm going to turn this over to Mary Frances because she's been waiting in line for eons.
Thank you. I can see that there's John Kennedy and David Hutchinson from our club in Ohio in attendance, and I'm shocked that neither one of them has said anything so far because I want to mention that we have a large membership number and we have a small membership that attends our Zoom meetings. Mary Frances thinks that a big part of it is the social aspect, in that we enjoy a friendship period before our meetings, and they come there expecting tables loaded with food that Mary Frances tries to make sure is there. And they have old home. Oh, I see Bob Gustisha, also a member of our club. They have old home week, and they love it. And many of them are my age group, I'm sorry to say. And now they do not have that one-on-one touchy thing that they got spoiled to. And I think in many cases, they're not showing up because of that. And I just wanted to say it out loud.
Well, I'll need to respond because you're my region, you're my club, and I half agree with you. I don't agree that it's not the social part, because over the last number of months of Zoom, right now we're going on another hour almost of social time. And she won't like it to say it, and my club doesn't like me to say it, but the big difference is we're not providing snacks. And
Yes.
and I think that if we go back into our building, which we can't because it's just too small of a building, and we don't have snacks, they're not going to come. They want the snacks. So I partially agree with you, but I honestly think that taking away the snacks, and I have to mention too, for her sake, that we ask for donations for the snacks, but people come in and eat all the snacks and they don't put any money in the little pot.
Guess who gets to pay for it?
I know I won't show up in person unless Mary Frances makes my special cake.
Yeah, that is true. We had one group that wouldn't meet because they get free pizza at their meetings. And Francis has worked on that, and the group in Arizona is now meeting online. But that was the quote I got, and I thought, how typical. And you're right, it's all about food.
I'd like to jump back one subject just to say that the reason we use the webinar and not the meeting is the format that we want to get through a number of presentations, one right after the other. We do not have really time to interact with people, but with all of our workshops and this kind of a meeting, we do allow that. We do the presentations, and with Bill and his workshops, we're on 45 minutes or so beyond talking and everything like that. But I think the webinar, the structure is we want the presenters to get through their presentation. Today I had to cut off Chris 5 minutes till the hour. I let her go an extra 10 minutes and she still didn't get everything done. So I think it's the structure that we want webinar to make presentations and get them in, and then meetings and workshops have some time.
I would like to.
Has a question.
I'd just like to make a comment about this because I attend a number of webinars and so forth,
come on.
where these are done professionally and everything else. Usually they give 15 minutes maybe at the end for people to discuss with the presenter because they hold back on the questions. And when you're doing a presentation, just like you're talking about, and I've been doing them for years, there's two things, and the presenter sets up the format right at the start. Either they don't want any questions while they're doing the presentation whatsoever, and then at the end they're going to handle questions, or they'll say, we'll take brief questions as I go along. And that's the two formats that you can have, basically. And I can say this, that you should still be able to open it up at the last 5 or 10 minutes. Even if the presenter is running long, then you should say you've got 5 minutes to go. And then afterwards, actually, you've got 10 minutes because then you open it up for questions. And one of the things, especially in technical sessions, that you have a problem with, the presenter may be rambling on and not realizing that the audience doesn't understand what they're talking about. And there may be just a couple of words that might clarify something as you go along.
Oh, Lord, I hope that doesn't happen with the presentations I choose. Over to Kevin.
Thank you. Just a few things, and then unfortunately, I'm going to have to get off the meeting. It's getting later than I anticipated. But dive in, Kevin Beauregard, part of the Royal Highlands Computer Club in Leesburg, Florida. Di Binder is the president of the club. For many years, she's been doing a fantastic job. And what she did when they transitioned to Zoom was she had 1 or 2 meetings just to say, this is what we're going to try. This meeting is only to come and try to see how we can all get on Zoom. And we all just fumbled through. Now, I had used Zoom a few times by that time, so I had just a little more knowledge than most of the other people there. But we just stumbled through it, and people didn't know how to turn on their video and turn on their audio and just all of this stuff. And we just got it, most of it worked out. We had a few things that never did get worked out for a couple people. But all in all, and she had, I think it was 2 of those meetings. And then we had a meeting just last week, I think it was, and we had like 4, 6, 8 people in those first couple meetings. And then on the presentation meeting, I think we had 16. So I think it paid off. You could argue that 16 versus the 50 to 60 people they had in their room when they had in-person meetings and the club was in its heyday is a huge drop. But it's newer technology that everybody's getting used to. So maybe it'll come back. I don't know. But that's what she seemed to do, and that seemed to help a lot. Wait, one other thing. Okay. I have had a few problems with my mouse, but when I went, and I appreciate the email you guys sent with just the meetings that I registered for. That was wonderful. I did find that I could not, my links weren't working. And they did work in other Zoom meeting emails that I've gotten, but I tried clicking on the link, that didn't work. I finally, since I have Zoom on my laptop, and that's what I was using, I finally just copied and pasted the Zoom meeting and the Zoom password, and I was in just fine. But I don't know what the issue was yet with the links. I just tried it again while I was on this conversation to make sure it wasn't just my mouse having a problem. And again, the links just didn't go anywhere. And I don't know why.
Was that for the VTC?
Yeah, that was for the first 2 sessions, yeah.
I tested all of those last night before I sent it out at 1:06 a.m. and every single one worked. But it's always, you hold your shift key down and click, but copy and paste when in doubt.
I am not faulting you, Judy, in the link.
No.
I just never figured it out yet because I thought I had allowed that to come in. But anyway, so those are just my 2 comments. But
outstanding.
When you're in trouble, may I suggest that you try a different browser? That's all. Just try a different browser. If your mouse isn't working quite right, try a different browser because it might be the browser that's the issue.
And thank you, Lloyd, because I have found that not so much with this particular incident, but with other incidents, I have certainly found that to be the case. Thanks.
I see 3 hands. Let's start with Murray.
Well, why don't we start with George, because he's had his hand up a long time ago before Mary Frances. So
that's true.
So me or is it me?
George Bowden.
Oh, George Bowden.
George, then you'll come second, Murray.
Okay.
Go ahead, George.
George,
sorry, I just forgot to lower my hand. That was all. I've lowered my hand now, but I do appreciate.
Okay.
I think that the calling people one-on-one is probably the best advice so far that we can do differently. It's very time-consuming, but to do a Zoom meeting one-on-one, I have used that when people have phoned me and said I can't get some part of their computer working or they can't get their email working, and for some reason, Quick Assist doesn't work on my computer, and so I've been using Zoom meetings too. And possibly after helping them, they will continue on with our Zoom meetings.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, George. Murray?
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to comment about Zoom meetings versus the live meetings. I'm also a member of the Victoria Genealogical Society, and those meetings have been extremely successful. In fact, since we've gone to the Zoom meetings for the general meetings, we have had more people attend than we could have accommodated in the physical quarters that we had, way more attendance. Also, we have gone to, our special interest groups have also been meeting by Zoom, but there we've been using the free accounts, and in Canada, we are still limited to 40 minutes per session. So we have to take a break after 40 minutes, we get cut off. First meeting of the month, we get, they extend the time, but then after that, you get cut off after 40 minutes. Now, I would just say that the normal format that we use for meetings, we have, at the beginning, we have a get together like this, where everybody can talk and take turns and tell what they're doing or whatever. And we do a similar thing at the end. But there's usually a formal presentation. And during the formal presentation, we cut off everybody's microphone and camera, because that helps with our bandwidth problems. We find we get much better results. We also have somebody, especially for the general meetings, we have somebody watching the chat area. So instead of people interrupting and asking their questions themselves, whoever is watching the chat area will bring up the questions to the speaker as appropriate. It might be interrupting them while they're speaking, especially if there's a point of clarification that needs to be done right then, or it might be held off for a little while. But we find that that format works extremely well. It's very good not to have the interruptions during the presentation, but then that looking at the chat area, having a specific person dedicated to watching the chat is really we find it to be an extremely efficient way to do it.
Thank you. Okay, Rose, and then Bob.
I guess you would say one of the newer people to be aware of APCUG. And I'm going to change the subject get off of the Zoom and more in relation to our individual club with APCUG. I'm from the CCCGC out of Port Charlotte in Florida, which means we are, our advisor, or our regional advisor is Jerry. Now I happen to be on the board, this is my first year on our board, and this is news to me that Jerry's our connection to you. And I'm wondering a couple of things. Number one, as a regional leader or regional advisor, who do you connect with with the individual groups? We are in the process of elections of new people. We're trying to push the club, some of us, into the 21st century in getting a number of new faces. And I guess trying to get some background information on how to stay connected with you. And besides just having the membership and getting information out to our people. I also happen to be the editor of the newsletter. So since I've been attending some of the programs, which I find absolutely wonderful, I've been putting notes on our events calendar and trying to get people to look at the link to see what's available and the connection. So I guess, I hope that makes some sense, looking for some background information, how to help us stay connected to you as we try to move forward.
Thank you, Rose, for your questions. I appreciate that. When I send out information to APCUG user groups, it goes to whoever your user group designates. It does not go to every member. So it usually goes to the president, the vice president, the APCUG rep, who is part of your board, or some other member that they have designated. Now, APCUG doesn't ever have contact with every member in your group. We depend on those people on the board of directors for your user group to forward the stuff out that you saw today, like newsletters, etc. In far as getting in contact with me, I have 5 different emails. One of them is jminnick@apcug.org. Like every other advisor has, the same kind of email. And you can email me anytime. I will answer you. And I tell this to everybody. If I give you an answer, it may not be, I don't know, but in most cases, I will be able to help you out. And I will answer questions. I will do whatever I can to get you the resources you need.
Okay, so probably what I'm hearing is to find out, well, I know who the president is, who was designated as the contact with you.
Yeah, APCUG rep. A lot of user groups have an APCUG rep. That's one of their titles.
Okay, and
Works.
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah.
The vice president currently is my husband, who is unaware of this as well, and he's running for president. So as the sidekick, and I'm kind of pushing some stuff and trying to keep us moving because it's exciting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
And I
Rose.
appreciate
You're
that.
working with Jerry will, I'm sure, be very, very helpful and get the information you want. Bob G, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, one more thing on Zoom. All you have to do is install Zoom on your computer and then start a meeting. And then you can experiment with it all you want because it's a meeting with yourself. So you can try out all the buttons, you can do all the background changes, you can add a mustache or whatever, just play with the thing. You can't hurt anything. You're starting your own meeting. Nobody's going to come in because you didn't invite anybody, but that's a way of you to try how does Zoom work. And once you install it, and it takes very little to install it, then the best way to experience Zoom is through the program itself, rather than just coming in on a browser.
Following up on what Bob just said, what I've done is actually hooked up 2 computers, signed in with 2 different sign-ons, so I can see how the reaction is from one computer to another, make sure the image that I have up is coming through loud and clear. Thank you. John, did you have your hand up? I can't hear you, John.
Yeah, I put it back down. We need to go back to Rose so that she understands, because since she's new to this, is that we have a user group listing service, and the clubs put into that the addresses of the people we can contact. So if Ray or Jerry does not have all of these names in that database, he only contacts the people who are in that database. So we need to, we stress it a lot to tell people to make sure that the user group listing service is up to date with all the officers, because that's where we get who we mail to. And I've got some clubs that only have 2 people listed. And so that means I'm relying on 2 people to get the word out. And I, just like with you, people say, oh, I never heard anything about that.
Right.
So that would be the thing. Now that you know that Jerry's your advisor, work with him and make sure that your officers who want to be contacted by us are listed in our service.
Okay.
And Rose, there's probably a disconnect because you said your husband is currently the vice president.
Yeah, and he never got any info.
So he doesn't get any emails.
No.
So that means that the UGLS is not, doesn't have current information in it.
Okay.
Do you know how to get to the UGLS?
Oh yeah, I've been on your website.
No, well, yeah, go to the
Yeah, okay.
UGLS and update your information.
I will
Rose.
forward the info.
Rose.
Yes.
You see that I changed my name on my little square. That's my email. If you send me an email and ask me any questions, I will answer them. and if we have to talk by phone, that's fine with me too. I have no problem with that. And if I have to come down there and visit you, like I would like to come over and visit you, Kevin, I'll do that too. I'm easy.
Yeah,
I'm
Rose.
almost as easy as Bob G.
Yeah, Rose, I'm on the board at the Sarasota Technology User Group, and also, and I am part of the Central Florida Computer Society out of Orlando. But I'm right up the road from you. I'm in Bradenton. So if you want to ever get in touch with me and discuss or ask questions about APCUG or user groups in general, I've been a part of this. I've been a user group member and a part of this whole movement since 1982. So I'd be glad to help you in any way I can as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to get Kevin first and then Judy. Go ahead, Kevin.
I'm just going to ask my question, hopefully get the answer, and then unfortunately I'm going to have to leave the meeting. The question I have is, I took a screenshot of one of the photos when they were being shown. And these photos, you guys did, the photo club was terrific. I really enjoyed those pictures. Some of those pictures were incredible. But the one I want to share, and I want permission to share it because I don't want to share it otherwise, is the one where the Crazy During Lockdown by Edward Hickman, where he has the picture of himself in many different places in his living room. Is it okay if I share that amongst my family and friends? Because I don't want to do that if he's got it copyrighted, or if he would prefer that it not be shared. So I don't know if he's in the meeting today or if this is public domain or what, but does anybody know?
I don't have it.
I will check with him and I will send you an email and let you know. We have a statement there. They give the rights to us, but I will check with him because that was way cool. I just want to let him know you want to do that too.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll look forward to that because it's going to be really hard not to take, I've already cropped it down, and it's very difficult for me not to do something inappropriate like that, but I will tell you, I won't do it until I hear from you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
All right.
And okay, Rose, there are 7 officers listed in the Charlotte member database listing.
Really?
The problem is we
There are
don't
9
know
of
if
us.
those are up-to-date officers. You're there as editor, your husband is not as VP. So when you have your election, all of that needs to be updated.
Okay. Will do.
APC is the last thing that any group thinks of when they have an election. They don't go, oh, I should go to the database or send the information to my advisor. So you'll take care of that, I bet.
You bet, because we have 9, not 7.
You got it.
Good. All right, I'm looking. I don't see any more hands raised.
Jerry Sass.
Hi, Judy. I've got 3 little topics. One, when we had our normal meetings, a lot of people come in early and they kind of meet up. And what we decided to do for our Zoom meetings, we said, let's start them a half hour early and call it meetup. And that way, people that come in early can have a little conversation with each other before the main topic or the main general meeting starts. And one topic that was covered already was, okay, you can use Zoom to help someone debug their PC, going to share mode and share their PC. That makes it really unique. And the third one I want to discuss, and I've discussed it once before, and that is we have trouble coming up with topics. And one thing that we have done is we've put together a news and tips website, which has over 3,000, almost 3,000 topics of almost 3,000 days, I should say. You can go to ccs.org, and on the first page, it will say news and tips. It'll take you to an index file that gives you all the weeks that we have, and you click on a week, and that will give you the week's information of news and tips. And each day has roughly almost 50 different tips on it. And they cover, you name it, from Windows to Mac to Linux to COVID. And you can do a search to try and find the topic. And this is what I use and a lot of other members use to do presentations on. And it makes it really easy to find topics to talk about.
Peter Hess.
Yes, thank you.
Couple comments about our hybrid meetings. We have both Zoom and also meetings in person. John was, I think it was John was talking about that. Two suggestions if you choose to have hybrid meetings. I would recommend strongly a push to talk mic, just like what we're doing here with the space bar, but a separate microphone. And also a Wi-Fi hotspot, a reliable one, because the restaurant we're at has horrible Wi-Fi. And very possibly an external camera, especially if you have an in-person presenter with a lot of Zoom attendees. We had a meeting recently where the director of the Board of Elections, the local Montgomery County Board of Elections, spoke to our group and talked about the computerization of the vote process. Told us what steps they went through, how they did it, what safety there was against hacking, etc. Very interesting. That's posted on our brand new YouTube channel, by the way. And our next meeting is about a computerized product that one of the local schools is going to be using. If you've heard of Myers-Briggs test, it's a personality test and how well you fit into the organization. They're going to be doing that with students and teachers to determine their stress levels because of the pandemic. And they're going to be evaluating and giving them tip-offs to help them with stress issues. They haven't had any suicides at this school, but they're trying to get ahead of the game on that. Well, it's not a game, but ahead of the story. Anyway, I'm getting my story ideas from the newspaper. I'm the programs chair as well as being the vice president and acting president. And I figure if I'm interested in it, being in this organization for 30-some years, then somebody else might be. And that's just a couple suggestions. Peter, what group are you with? I'm sorry, Dayton Microcomputer Association, Dayton, Ohio.
Shares his meetings.
Okay, see Murray's hand is up again. Go ahead, Murray.
Yeah, I just want to comment that we had a very successful hybrid meeting, Linux hybrid meeting this morning. We had 6 people in live attendance, and one of them was a new person who contributed a tremendous amount that the rest of us didn't know, and he learned a lot from us. Plus, we had 5 others who were joined us virtually. A few little glitches trying to get it started and trying to get basically, there was a couple of things that we do, and I did this for my genealogy meeting on Tuesday. I basically set up one of the, I set up actually my phone and used it as a camera so that all the people who were joining virtually could see all of us. We did a similar thing today with one of the tablets. And then one of our members, one of the organizers has one of those special microphones, a microphone that sort of is an omnidirectional that you set out on the table and can move it around close to the person who's speaking in person. And that all worked very well. So just thought I'd share that.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's approaching, what, 5:30 in East Coast? Some people might be wanting to get ready for dinner. So I think
How about lunch?
have all lunch. So I'd like to think we had a really successful chat this time. We should try to do more of this. Judy has one more thing to say. Go ahead.
Then, and after me, it's Lloyd and Roger. I forgot to say, the Micro PC group in Denver has hybrid meetings. They are back in their meeting room. They are meeting in a semicircle, 6 feet apart, wearing masks. And when it's time, and they lock the door after everybody's in, that the required number that they can have. The center locks the door. And when it's time for them to leave, they have a protocol on how they leave the building. And one of the meetings I attended, the presentation wore his mask the whole entire time he gave the presentation. And totally understandable, really outstanding meeting. So that's one way they're doing it. And over to you, Lloyd, and then Roger.
Okay, I'm sorry. First of all, I apologize for interrupting once before, but evidently I don't think that this hand up business was working properly. At least Judy, you recognize me now that my hand was up. But I don't know if it's something fault with the technology or not, but at least you recognize it now, so that's fine. So I know it's working. And thank you very much. One of the persons previously made a comment about the 40-minute limit, and that's when you have the person who creates the meeting has an unpaid subscription to the Zoom people. And we've had this problem before. Actually, there was what we call a special interest group in the Durham group. The person that created the meeting did not have a paid version. And I know that some people can piggyback onto APCUG, and they can use your paid version to get in and have it for unlimited length of time. Now, I do have, for business reasons, a paid version. And what I found from Zoom, and this is for everybody to understand, if I join a meeting that was created by someone with an unpaid version, I can't switch over and extend that meeting for over 40 minutes. And I got an official, let's say, technology answer from Zoom themselves that told me the person that creates the meeting is the person that has all the attributes of that particular meeting that go with it. So if I created a meeting, even if I made somebody else a co-host, that meeting could last for well beyond 40 minutes. And it's just a technology thing that I think people should be aware of. So for any of you that are in your own computer club groups, if somebody within your group has a paid version, or your group itself has a paid version, they could start the meeting, but somebody else could be the host. Just so that you folks can know.
Those instructions are on the website since May.
Yeah, I just mentioned that the Victoria Genealogical Society has a policy that their main meeting, they use their paid account, but everybody who runs a special interest group is expected to use their own account. And most of the rest of us have free accounts. I was fortunate when I ran one of the special interest groups that they let me use the paid account, but then I was told that's a no-no, that's not our policy. You have to use your free account or your own. If you have a paid account yourself, you can do it, but we're not letting the special interest groups use that paid account. Main reason is they don't want to give up password to everybody, and they don't want to, it's a pain for the person, one of the club members who has the access to it, to be present to start the meeting. So that's the reason for it, and it makes sense, and it's working okay. It's just, a little bit pain to be cut off after 40 minutes. I don't think in the US you have that problem, and I don't think you have it in Europe. It's just that they have kept that limitation in Canada.
Not bad. Murray, I want you to know that we have instructions on through our web doings. There is a way that the person who has the account can send a special link for the non-owner who can sign in and run the meeting without having to get into the account, without having to have any password. So there is a way that we do it in our group. We have a number of groups that we give them the link to be able to get in and take over a host, but they don't have access and to our password. So
okay. Could you send me a link to those instructions?
Judy will do that because we wrote it up together.
Okay, great. I appreciate that.
Okay. Oh, and I will say the San Luis Obispo group in Central California has used their free Zoom account for probably 3 years for their board meeting, and they take a break. They either go to the bathroom or they get some food for 10 minutes, and then person who booked the meeting clicks on it, everybody joins in and they finish their board meeting. It's
Yeah,
run
and actually we found
for
that if you know, when we get cut off at the 40-minute thing, if you use exactly the same link that you sent it, you can rejoin the meeting immediately.
Absolutely.
So it's not really, it's just a little tiny inconvenience. And it saves, I mean, it's just their policy. I'm not on the board or the executive. So I mean, I can make a suggestion, but I think they're all right. Some of the people are, I know one of the person is sort of upset with me for using the paid account for one of the SIG meetings. But anyway, it's not too bad an inconvenience.
The more you use it, the cheaper it is.
So this is Roger Tess from Madison PC Users Group in Wisconsin. So I just wanted to thank you all for another great VTC. I've taken advantage of VTC YouTube recordings over the years. At last minute of using them at my user group meetings or planning in advance, and probably have used dozens of them. And I've learned a lot from them, as well as members have. And also, like this year, taking advantage of presentations from John and Bob, and then with Judy and John assisting us with Zoom at one of meetings, and I have my own license now, so I use that for the user group board meetings and general meetings, as well as various other places too. So I, continue to learn more about Zoom, and really just find it advantageous with so many other groups and activities I've involved with, whether it's taking seminars or participating in conventions and that, where it seems to have opened up opportunities for people to meet from around the country, around the world, different time zones. And in many cases, more people are participating than could do it personally. Because of costs for transportation, hotels and lots of other things. So it's just really opened up things, too. So just thank you, everyone, for making this VTC and annual meeting available to us.
Yeah, and I would just like to add a comment for anybody who is interested in genealogy. One of the biggest, most important conferences is called Roots Tech. And it's held in Salt Lake City, and it's very expensive to attend. But this year, because of COVID, they are doing it completely virtually, and they have made the registration open to everybody for free. So if you're interested in genealogy, that's in February, and it's Roots Tech. I'm sure you can find it and find the place to register for it. And it's, as I said, the whole conference is going to be available for free to anybody who registers in advance.
That was Groups Tech?
Roots Tech, like, ROOTSTECH. And it is, well, it's the biggest genealogy conference. And they normally hold it every year in Salt Lake City, and sometimes a second version in some other country. But in February, it's going to be virtual and free to anybody who registers. I think the normal registration fee is around $300 or $400. And then, of course, if you were to go there, you would have airfare and hotels and everything else. The one advantage of going there personally is if you're interested in genealogy, the best resource for genealogy is at the LDS facility there, and then there you can look through all their microfilms and all that. But anyway, certainly I've registered, and most of the people in our genealogical community have as well.
Thank you.
I can send Judy a link to it.
That's okay, kiddo. I've already got it written down here under your name. I'll look it up, because that's the kind of stuff I want to send out to everybody.
Okay.
Ray, I do think it's time to go. I see no more hands raised on my participants list, so let's get out of here.
All right, it's been a wonderful meeting, and I really appreciated all the comments back and forth. And we're going to do this again next year for our next annual meeting, and we hope you'll all be here. Thank you very much. And I'm going to leave the meeting now, and I guess, John, you'll be the one who'll close it officially? Okay, bye-bye.